Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion, your host, and welcome back to Baseball Head. I hope you like this video. Hit that subscribe button. So this is sort of a recap of what happened in Game 6. As you know, I had to be up early on Monday, and I was really hoping to do a video, live stream tonight, to talk about the Mets, but obviously they're not playing tonight. They got sent home. Sent off to the Phantom Zone till February. And then we'll reconvene, hopefully, God willing, another Mets season. But the Mets lost Sunday night to the Dodgers 10-5. It was everything I warned against in the live stream that I did prior to the game. That Showman and I did not go into the sixth inning. The Mets were going to have a difficult time winning the game. And he couldn't get past the third inning. And obviously, he hit a wall physically. It's interesting. John Smoltz, who really has annoyed the hell out of us as a broadcaster, he said an interesting thing to me because he would know about how to pitch and stuff. Obviously, the Hall of Fame pitcher. He said that one of the things that you lose command of when you're tired and you reach your maximum in terms of just physically in a season is your fastball. You lose command of your fastball. And watching those pitches being thrown by Showman and I, you saw how difficult a time he was having. And how difficult a time he was having commanding his fastball. He didn't have the sort of break that he'd want from his off-speed pitches, and it showed. And he carried this team for the last 2 months. From the pitching staff standpoint, he pitched really well. In the Phillies series, pitched well against the Brewers, and really down the stretch. So there's really nothing to complain about in that regard, just overall. But that was the most disheartening thing to me. And really, the Met pitching staff really got beat up in the Dodgers series overall. Even in the game they won, they got beat up really bad. In the games they won, they really got beat up physically. You could tell that they were all maxed out. I also said that the Mets offense needed to do more to win the game, and they just didn't do enough, or especially early in the game. 2 key at-bats, the Starling and Marte at-bats that he had early in the game, leaving the bases loaded, not swinging at the first pitch in the first inning, and really not having the kind of at-bats he had in Game 5. Game 5, he had great at-bats. The Mets had great at-bats throughout the whole game in Game 5. But his at-bats in particular, hurt them significantly. And as you know, we're going home. We're home now. But there's going to be a press conference on Wednesday. David Stern is going to talk about the season. Now, this season, prior to this season, last year, when the Mets traded Verlander, Scherzer, and all the other veterans, there was so much yelling and screaming about how the Mets were going to punt this year. The Mets never said that. There were so many people saying they were giving up on the season, they weren't going to try. Well, they tried, and they did as much as you could possibly humanly do and not get to the World Series, and they came awfully close. And to be honest with you, 3 of the losses, they were close in the games. Game 3, they were close until late. Game 4, they were close until late. And obviously, they did their best to try to keep up with the Dodgers in Game 6. But the Dodgers, in terms of their offense, is unrelenting. And it made it difficult. Now, the Mets, as you know, didn't make any major acquisitions last offseason. And a lot of people were upset. But I had said earlier on, let's give this team a chance. This was a team that won 101 games 2 years ago. And for the most part, aside from the pitching staff, their core was still together. Jeff McNeil, Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, and of course, Brandon Nimmo was still here. So the lineup was still intact. The core everyday players and Edwin Diaz was here. So you saw this core that won 101 games had a terrible year. And really, it started with Edwin Diaz's injury in the WBC. That set the stage for everything that sort of collapsed last year. People forget that. Now, he didn't have a great season this year. We know that. He could have been much better. I think next year he'll be much, much better, I would think. But they worked so hard after June 1st, especially after they got off the 0-5 start. And they actually had a good month of April. And then they had that disaster of a month of May. And to be 22-33, and then basically after that, they were the best team in baseball, especially after they came back from London. And then they got rid of a lot of dead weight on this team. They got rid of Jorge Lopez. Omar Narvaez was out of here. They got rid of Joey Wendell. So they got rid of a lot of dead weight, and they had a lot of dead weight on this roster last year. So they had even more last year, the one thing that I really appreciate about David Stearns is that he was willing to get rid of all the dead weight that wasn't performing. If you were Joey Wendell and you signed you to a contract, you're out of here. He brings in Jose Iglesias. He had Jorge Lopez, also another guy, signed to a contract. The guy acted like a fool on the field, threw his glove into the stands. They got rid of him right after the game. Didn't waste time. That's accountability coming from the top of the mountain. When you get the accountability from the boss saying you're out of here, if you do stuff like that, that sends a message to everybody else. And really, after they did that, there was a message the players wanted to send to each other, and they had that big meeting. And everything sort of fell into place. They played much better. Their defense got much better. They were hitting much better with men in scoring position. The pitching became sort of rallied around the team. And, when you get good starting pitching, it really gives you a chance to win games, obviously. Now, what is the end results of this season? They didn't go to the World Series, which I was thinking of the last week before this series started, or the days before. I said, man, they got a good chance to win this thing, the way I was feeling. And I know they're going to play behind the Dodgers. I know I picked them to win 5 games against the Dodgers, but I was like, you know what? They had a real good shot at this. And then we saw the difference in the two teams. I was like, uh-oh. Especially in game 1, I was like, uh-oh, But I was like, they kept taking punches and punches and punches, and they were very resilient. And they got up a couple of times in this series. This was not, they didn't lay down. So happy they didn't lose game 5 at home, because they've done so many times of that. So many years, and so many times they've been to postseason. Over the last 25 years, they've lost at home, and I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to see the Dodgers, jumping up and down at Citi Field. I didn't want to see that again. And one of the things we've seen now, that sort of some of the results of this season is, one, this core has more resilience than we thought they had. 2, because that was a big label that the Mets had. They were soft, and certain players couldn't come up in the clutch. They all came up clutch, every single one of them. Francisco Lindor, at the top of that. He always said the right things behind the scenes. He always said the right things to the press. And now he was able to do the right things and show his leadership on the field with the performance. Leadership's not just about saying the right things, also being able to perform on the big stage, and he has done that. Done that here. That is a big difference, and it makes it so much easier now moving forward. That's out, clear. I don't have to talk about it anymore. I can move on, and we'll just the Mets will build this team around him, which is fine, which is what they had done anyway. But the fact that his leadership ability and capability has come to the forefront is huge. Mark Vientos. We talked about him a lot over the last year. I was begging the Mets to play him and get rid of that Pantlo Vogelback, and they refused to do it last year, and they did not want to give him a chance, even though he had good spring training. He had that big walk-off home run in April. He'd done everything he could possibly do to be in the major leagues, and then he finally had his chance and took that job away from Brett Beatty. Brett Beatty is never going to get that third base job again. And that's his job now, is being the third baseman. Vientos needs to improve his footwork, and I said this plenty of times, improve his footwork and improve his ability to transfer the ball from his glove to his arm. He's got a good arm. That's some of the things he needs to do. Now, a couple of things that we do know now is that the Mets did not spend a lot of money last year. A lot of money's coming off the books. Scherzer's contract's coming off. Verlander, James McCann, Omar Narvaez, all coming off the payroll. So there's a lot of money coming off. The Mets going to be spending a lot of money now. And I would hope that David Stearns spends that money wisely. I think he will. He's shown that he did a great job of spending the Mets' money very wisely this past offseason with the pitching. I expect big signings this year, this offseason. I expect a big trade here or there. And the Mets need to start figuring out what they want to do with Pete Alonso. He didn't have a great season. I thought he had a terrific postseason. He had 2 big home runs. That home run in Milwaukee basically shut up everybody now about him being clutch. You could always point to that home run, and also the home run at Citi Field on Friday, that he is a clutch player. And that's the thing that has been haunting him really for 2 years. And a lot of it, just looking at it, thinking about it, his approach had changed. He became more of a pull hitter, and he wasn't really trying to hit the ball all over the field. And that has all been, I think, erased. Now you're going to have to decide, the Mets are going to have to decide, is the value of a contract moving forward, is the value going to be there for him and for the Mets to have him here play first for the next 5 to 6 years? They will figure that out. The Mets will figure that out. David Stern's done pretty much everything right so far. And that's really the big deal. Now, a couple other things. We know a lot about the manager. The manager, he's a terrific guy. He knows how to run a team, manage a game. Very important. This is a small thing. I mentioned it here or there the last, during the season. The Mets were getting hit by pitches, and they've always led the league in hit by pitches. But I didn't feel like teams were going out of their way up until the Dodger series. That's the only time I felt that the teams were trying to take advantage of the Mets. That kind of stopped, because there was more of a seriousness from the manager. And when you get that serious from the manager, the other team doesn't want to do that. But I noticed that was like a major thing. I think a lot has to do with the manager. He took that very seriously, some of that stuff. Now, I got to tell you, a very sad day for everybody, including myself. Sort of give you the personal thing. I'm very tired today. That's why this video is going up so late. And that's why this is the only video going on this channel today. There's going to be plenty of videos coming up on the channels over the next few days, and really as we get into the offseason for us. But the only time I felt this tired was when the Mets played the Braves in that first game of the doubleheader. I was so tired the next day because all that emotion of beating the Braves was there. That's why I thought the Mets were going to win the World Series, because they had all their enemies all lined up. They took out the Braves. The Brewers that beat up on them, they took out the Brewers. They took out the Phillies, and they had the Dodgers standing in front of us, and then they had the assholes in the Bronx ready to go. But let's run out of gas. Now, I'm going to have plenty of videos on Juan Soto, what's going to happen with him. I'm going to have plenty of videos on the Mets and what they decide to do with Pete Alonso. I expect trades, a couple that the Mets are going to make. The Mets need to decide what they want to do with 2 particular veteran players that aren't under contract. That's Jeff McNeil and Starlin Marte. Marte is going to be he's 36 years old. He's not going to get any better. He did have a good year for the Mets. He was injured for a time. He's always injured every year. He's got 1 year left in the contract. The contract's not that crazy. But the Mets could think about and should think about moving him in the offseason. The Mets have some talent in the farm system that needs to play. Drew Gilbert being one of them. And the other player that the Mets should seriously look into moving is Jeff McNeil. Jeff McNeil has had a very good career here. He's had a lousy year and a half here, but he played really well in the second half. His bat was very much missed over the last month. That I can tell you, just overall. But he is a guy that is kind of holding back some of the other players that the Mets need to take a look at. So that's why the Mets have Luis Angel Acuna. And can't forget about Ryan Mauricio. He's coming back. Brett Beatty, Jet Williams, and a couple other guys further down the pipeline that the Mets have to look at to see where their future is. Okay? So Jeff being 32 years old, 33 years old, I don't know how the Mets feel about him move forward in terms of being the future of this team. And this team is going to try to be a championship team next year. They certainly tried. They really tried with the resources they had this year at their disposal. But they're going to have a lot of resources coming on being available to them and being available to David Stearns. But you want to be smart. You don't want to have the team being older in spots. Like I said, You got a lot of young talent in the middle infield on this club. You're not going to move Vientos off at third. He stays at third. And you have some talent in the outfield. Ryan Clifford will be coming along the line at some point as well. He's probably 2 years away from when I read and stuff and his different scouting reports. But Drew Gilbert is a guy to keep an eye on. Jeff Williams is a guy to keep an eye on. Luis Angel Acuna, we've seen him, and Ronnie Mauricio. You got 4 guys here. I also would say this, and I know that people love the guy. He's a great guy. But Jose Iglesias is 34 years old. I mean, 35 years old, okay? I saw offensively things I didn't like in this postseason. He was going up against better pitching. There's a reason why he did not play in the big leagues last year. I would be very leery about bringing him back. Everybody wants to bring back Jose Iglesias. I understand it. I get it. But you have all this young talent that needs to play that are the future. And why are you giving it back to an older player, especially going into a new season? It's one thing if you bring a guy in the middle of the season, you need a little help. His defensive ability at shortstop is limited. Because when the Mets brought him up here, they basically had to back up a shortstop. But his defense is limited. He's still a good defensive infielder. But he's really not really a shortstop anymore. He hasn't been a shortstop in a while. Luis Angel Acuna, even though his range is not the greatest, you can kind of play him at short and have him be a backup if you need him if he's playing every day. So to me, there are guys that really don't fit in this club for next year. JD Martinez, he's not coming back, and not because of the numbers, but just because I just noticed that there seemed to be a decline with his ability to hit. And the Mets kind of needed him over the last month and a half. If I have, prime JD Martinez, I don't have to play Jesse Winker. And I know Jesse's had a lot of big hits, but that's kind of some of the things that I'm looking at from my own standpoint. And you can maneuver different guys in there, maybe hold on to Jesse and then get a right-handed compliment to Jesse. And that isn't nearly as good as Martinez, but that's just some of the things I've thought about. One of the things the Mets need to improve for next year is they need to find a pitching staff that walks fewer batters. I'm not a big fan of the pitching coach. I hope they do something about him. We'll see. I think he might not have a contract, but I'm not 100% sure. But those are some of the things the Mets need to work out in the offseason. I'm going to do plenty of live streams on this channel. Plenty of videos for you every single day. And of course, lastly, I want to thank you all for watching the videos for all these years, for the last 4 years, but particularly this season. This was a fun ride. It was a tough ride in the beginning. And it's been a tough ride the last year because so many people have been hammering the Mets and hammering your host for sticking up for them. Now, I thought today that WFAN was going to hold off until Wednesday to complain about Pete Alonso and stop complaining about the team. So there will be videos on WFAN. There will also be videos on about ESPN attacking the Mets right after they lost, and of course Fox Sports Major League Baseball. Those accounts on X attacking the Mets right after they lost. So I'm going to have plenty of videos just ripping into the media how much they disrespect the Mets and disrespect us as fans, okay? And I would mention this. I'm not a disgruntled Met fan. I'm the disgruntled Met fan. I'm not just some disgruntled Met. I'm not disgruntled, believe me. But I am, they say this guy's a big Mets fan. That guy's a big Mets fan. No, I'm the big Mets fan. The biggest Mets fan. And that's why you need to subscribe to the Baseball Hut, because I am the biggest one out there. Bigger than Morty, bigger than Let's Talk with Rob, bigger than that Ryan Finkelstein, the Locked On Mets guy. Nobody, and the Hut means nobody's bigger than me. I am the big Mets fan. Nobody's even close. Entertaining, fun, and we have a lot of laughs here. And this is very different and odd kind of channel that you need to subscribe to. And now that we're in the off season, anything goes. This will be like the Wild West here, folks. Pew, pew, going after every individual that attacks our ball club and me making fun of them. Oh, I'm good at it. Well, you let me know what you think about this. And again, thank you for sharing your time with me for the past year. Even if you haven't subscribed and you come back, I thank you for taking the time and with me and going through all the live streams. And then we more live streams in the off season. And of course, plenty of videos and posts and everything else. So thank you for watching. Have a good night. Have a good day. Let's go Mets. And I'll see you later.